This story was sent to me by someone who asked to remain anonymous. He's the father who lived through that horrific night. He said he's writing these words now for one reason only, so no one else makes the same mistake he did when he pulled over at that pharmacy. It was 1 a.m. I was driving down a dark country road in rural Ohio. My young son was burning up with a severe fever. His body was scorching. I searched for the nearest open pharmacy until a faded sign appeared on the road. Miller's Pharmacy, open 24 hours. The place was isolated, tucked deep in the woods. The building was ancient. The paint was peeling off the walls. I walked inside. The door chime let out an irritating, sharp ring. The smell inside wasn't medicine. It was a heavy, overpowering scent of formaldehyde, the kind used in morgues. No one was at the counter. I tapped on the glass. "Anyone here?" I called out loudly. No answer. I started walking through the aisles. There were old bottles without labels, filled with murky liquids and things that looked like small human organs. Suddenly, I heard a sound from the back room. The sound of an electric saw. It stopped abruptly. Then, the pharmacist walked out. He was tall, unnaturally thin. He wore a white lab coat covered in yellow and red stains. He didn't smile. His eyes were bulging behind thick glasses. He looked at me not as a customer, but as a new specimen. I said in a trembling voice, "I need something for my son's fever." He didn't respond. He just stared intensely into my eyes. Then, in a raspy voice, he said, "You have a rare blood type, don't you?" Panic hit me. How did he know that? He didn't even ask about my son's age. He turned around and started filling a massive syringe with a black liquid. Suddenly, I glimpsed something behind the counter, right under his feet. It was a human hand, a small hand, moving weakly under the prep table. The pharmacist stepped on it with his heavy boot, completely cold-blooded. He looked at me and said, "The medicine is ready." I tried to take a step back, but the pharmacist was faster. He pressed a button under the counter. I heard the heavy thud of an iron lock bolting the front door. I was trapped. He said with a terrifying calmness, "Don't worry, the fever will break, and your son will be just fine." He began walking from behind the counter toward the aisle where I stood. His footsteps were heavy. His boots left sticky tracks on the floor. I looked at the shelves around me again. There were no recognizable medicine boxes. Instead, there were glass jars filled with human teeth. Some still had traces of blood on them. In the corner of the aisle, I saw a wheelchair. Someone was sitting in it, wrapped in white gauze from head to toe. Dark green fluid was leaking through the bandages. The person was alive, shivering silently, as if trying to scream, but their throat had been removed. The pharmacist approached me. In his other hand, he held a large pair of iron pliers. He said, "Do you know why this pharmacy is so far from the city?" Then he let out a dry laugh that shook his thin frame. "Because our neighbors here in the woods don't complain about the screaming." At that moment, the large medicine fridge behind him swung open on its own. It didn't hold insulin or vaccines. It was packed with clear plastic bags. Inside each bag was a carefully flayed human face. I started running toward the back aisles, searching for an emergency exit. But the pharmacy was a maze. The shelves seemed to move, or maybe that was just my terror. I reached the lab area in the back. There was a large metal table with an unconscious man on it. His stomach was completely cut open. The pharmacist was stuffing empty medicine bottles inside the man's body, using humans as living storage for his filthy drugs. I heard his footsteps approaching the lab. He was humming an old nursery rhyme in a cracked voice. I tripped over a body on the floor. It was a cop. His weapon was lying next to him, but it was empty. I realized then that I wasn't the first one to come here looking for help. The pharmacist appeared at the lab door. He was wearing a surgical mask made of real human skin. He said, holding up the massive syringe, "Your son is waiting for his medicine. Don't keep him waiting long." I backed into the corner of the lab. My back hit the cold fridge. It was vibrating with a muffled thud, as if something alive was kicking the walls from the inside. The pharmacist advanced slowly. The surgical mask on his face rose and fell with his steady breathing. His calmness was scarier than any scream. He said in a cold tone, "Medicine always needs volunteers, and you walk through the right door." Suddenly, a metal locker next to him swung open. Piles of human clothes fell out. Children's shoes, wallets, and smashed wristwatches. I wasn't the first customer, and I wouldn't be the last. I looked at the table next to him. There were rusted surgical tools and bone saws with bits of human tissue still stuck to them. The pharmacist reached out and grabbed a huge syringe. It was filled with a murky yellow liquid. He squirted a little bit into the air and said, "This will relax your muscles while we extract what we need." I had no choice. I gathered all my strength and grabbed a surgical scalpel that was lying nearby. I threw it at his face with everything I had. The scalpel hit his forehead, and a deep gash began to bleed bright red. He let out a human scream full of pain and rage. That gave me a bit of relief. He was human. He could be killed. He pulled the scalpel out of his face without blinking and started laughing hysterically, blood covering half his face and dripping into his mouth. I lunged at him, pushing the heavy metal table with the man on it toward him. The pharmacist fell under its weight, and I heard a clear bone-cracking sound. I ran toward the back door of the lab, my heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted to escape my chest. I found myself in a narrow, dark hallway. The smell was unbearable, a mix of ammonia, rot, and burnt meat. The walls were covered in old monitors. One of them showed my car's back seat. My son was still there, but there was someone else standing by the car. Someone dressed exactly like the pharmacist. He was holding a flashlight, shining it on my sleeping son's face. The pharmacist behind me shouted in a loud, raspy voice, "Brother, the guest is trying to leave. Cut him off." My blood turned to ice. It wasn't just one psycho. It was a family of pharmacists running a slaughterhouse under the guise of medicine. I reached a large washing machine at the end of the hall. It was running violently, shaking as if it were filled with heavy weights. I looked through the small, stained glass. There were no clothes. It was filled with bags of human skin being cleaned of blood in a gruesome wash cycle. Next to the machine was a large bin filled with human teeth, sorted by size. Behind the washer was a small crawl space. I tried to pull it open, but it was bolted down with massive screws greased with fat so they wouldn't budge. Behind me, I heard footsteps running at an inhuman speed. The first pharmacist was crawling on the floor despite his broken leg. He was scuttling like a reptile. He was holding a nail gun. He started firing nails at me at random. The first nail hit the wall right by my ear. The second nail slammed deep into my shoulder. I let out a muffled scream. The pain burned through my nerves like a hot coal. I collapsed to the floor, blood soaking my shirt. The pharmacist reached me. He grabbed my hair and yanked my head up. I didn't see monsters. I only saw human eyes filled with pure evil and madness. He said, pressing the cold barrel of the nail gun against my forehead, "Do you know why medicine is so expensive? Because extracting it from live human glands takes a long time. You're excellent raw material." At that moment, I heard the sound of my car window shattering outside. My son let out one single scream that pierced my heart. Then, silence. Dead silence. The pharmacist smiled, revealing rotting yellow teeth. He started dragging me by my feet toward an old wooden staircase leading to the basement. The steps were coated in a thick layer of greasy human fat, so the victims would slide down easily. As he dragged me, I could see photos hung on the sides of the stairs of previous victims. Some of them were smiling in the photos. Now they were just jars on the shelves. I began to lose consciousness from the pain and blood loss. The last thing I heard was the sound of his brother opening the basement door from the outside, dragging something heavy across the floor. I opened my eyes with difficulty. The darkness in the basement was thick, almost liquid. The smell here was different. It wasn't formaldehyde. It was the scent of damp earth and old corpses. I was shackled with iron chains to a tilted wooden table. The pain in my shoulder from the nail was throbbing with every heartbeat. I heard footsteps above me. Then, the wooden basement door creaked open. The second brother came down. He was wearing a leather apron, completely stained, dragging a large canvas bag behind him. My heart screamed in terror. Is that my son? He dropped the bag on the floor next to me. It didn't move. The first pharmacist followed him down, limping heavily. His blood-covered face looked like a demon from hell. The second brother said in a deep, gravelly voice, "The little one put up a fight. I had to give him a double dose." He started opening the bag very slowly. I rattled the chains and screamed until my throat tore. A small hand came out of the bag. Then, a pale face. It was my son. His eyes were open, but he wasn't blinking. He was staring at me blankly. I screamed, "What did you do to him?" The first pharmacist leaned into my ear and whispered coldly, "He's not dead. He's in a deep sleep. We call it suspended life. We're going to use his little body to produce rare marrow serum." Suddenly, the sound of a distant alarm went off. The brothers froze. They looked at each other in a panic. "They're back," the second brother said, pulling out a massive knife. Who was back? The police? But the first pharmacist said, "Hurry, move the specimens to the back tunnel." They started unchaining me and my son with frantic speed. It wasn't a rescue. They were trying to hide the evidence. At that moment, I leaned forward with all my strength and bit the pharmacist's hand as he was unlocking the chains. He screamed in pain. I took the chance and snatched the knife from the second brother's belt. I stabbed him in the thigh with everything I had left. He collapsed. I grabbed my son and threw him over my shoulder despite my injury. I ran toward the dark tunnel they had pointed to. It was a long tunnel stretching under the forest. I was running, blood dripping from me and my son. Behind me, I heard sounds that weren't human, the barking of massive dogs, and the shouts of strange men. I emerged from the end of the tunnel to find myself in the middle of the dark woods. My car was completely totaled in the distance. But that wasn't the weirdest part. When I looked at my son's hand hanging over my shoulder, I saw something that made my mind stop. There was no needle mark. Instead, there was a tiny tattoo behind his ear, a strange serial number, and that same tattoo was on my own wrist. When did they put it there? And how? I reached the highway. The light of a police car was approaching. I waved my hands frantically. The car stopped. The officer stepped out and looked at me with an eerie calmness. He didn't ask what happened. He didn't call for an ambulance. He looked at my son, then at my wrist. He saw the tattoo. He smiled coldly and said into his radio, "Specimen 402 located. The small product is in good condition. Send the cleanup crew to Miller's Pharmacy." I froze. The officer pulled a small syringe from his pocket and said to me, "Sleep now." Tomorrow, the new production cycle begins. The last thing I saw before blacking out was the pharmacy sign in the distance, flickering on and off, and my son's voice whispering in my ear, a voice that didn't sound like his. "Thanks, Dad. You got me here just in time." The message the father sent ended at this point. He didn't mention where he is now, or how he managed to send this message. But he ended his letter with one sentence: "If you see Miller's Pharmacy open on your path, don't stop, even if it costs you your life."